Intercultural contact zones for Wollongong, New South Wales. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we stand, gather to communicate, create and learn at UTS, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I would like to extend this respect to the First Nations people of the Illawarra region, the Dharawal Nation. Indigenous sovereignty was never ceded. Wollongong resides just over an hour south of Sydney on the coast and has a rich multicultural population. I was born in Wollongong and continue to live here. My family emigrated here from Serbia after the Second World War. In Wollongong, 56.2% of people were born in Australia. The most common countries of birth were China, England, India, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, and New Zealand. The following intercultural contact zones from my hometown have shaped my intercultural experiences and are all examples of transculturation, a term coined by Mary Louise Pratt in 1992 to illustrate the outcomes of when different people meet. The intercultural contact zones I will be researching are Mount Kira, Illawarra Blue Scope Steelworks, the Nantian Temple, Illawarra Performing Arts Centre, and St Mary's Star of the Sea College. Pictured on the left is my great-grandmother after the birth of my grandfather in the El Shat refugee camp in Egypt. The following photos are ones of my family after they'd moved to Wollongong. Here is my great-grandfather with my grandfather and my uncle in Wollongong Harbour in the 1950s. And this is what Wollongong Harbour looks like today. You can see a lot of development and knocking down of buildings as well. Mount Kira, a women's area, is a cultural keystone for the Wadi Wadi people, the significant site for the Five Islands dreaming story about the creation of Wollongong's surrounding islands. Mount Kira overlooks the stretch of coast from Wombara to Lake Illawarra. Hiking trails of Mount Kira are open for public recreation, where people of all cultural backgrounds can connect to Dharawal country and learn from Indigenous knowledges about the islands of Illawarra. Mount Kira can be seen from anywhere in Wollongong, even from the commemorative mural of the Dreaming Story at Hill 60, which continues the story to our multicultural landscape today. Ms. Brown, a Wadi Wadi woman, said that Hill 60 is a big meeting place, not only for the Aboriginal people from a long time ago, but right up to today for non-Aboriginal people. There is recognition of Dharawal people at Mount Kira, but there is no account of the 2,100 hectares of Dharawal land being stolen and handed to 5 non-resident colonialists in 1816. Gregory Black's land was promised Mount Kira, Gundarin, and granted convict slaves for the development of Mount Kira Road. Mount Kira is a significant site today that celebrates First Nations lasting culture. However, the little-known colonial hegemony of land rights needs to be brought to the community's conscience. In the second picture, you can see Mount Kira as seen from my house. The Nantian Temple is a Buddhist temple in Wollongong, with its name meaning Southern Heaven in Mandarin. It is one of the largest Buddhist temples in the Southern Hemisphere and opened in 1996. One of Wollongong's largest tourist attractions, the temple is a contact zone for those practicing Buddhism, as well as wanting to learn about the spirituality and Chinese cultural practices. The public can walk around the grounds and participate in light offering ceremonies by lighting candles. Nantian holds classes for the public for calligraphy, meditation, and Tai Chi. Holding naming ceremonies for babies is welcome to all, even those not of Buddhist faith. Some of my friends have participated in this with their newborns. When staying at my grandmother's house in Unanderra, we could see the Nantian Temple from her house. I spent time at public ceremonies and festivals as a child and continue to do so. The Nantian Annual Cultural Festival brings together people to participate in dance, food, crafts, and exhibitions. Nantian can be seen as an intercultural meeting place and a cultural transition of integration for Buddhists who have migrated to Wollongong. One of the most significant intercultural contact zones in my local community is in schools, as its students reflect the multicultural population. Attending school in Wollongong allowed me to make friends from various birth countries, speaking languages such as Macedonian, Serbian, Italian, Greek, Arabic, and Filipino at home. Engaging with the cultures of school friends from different ethnic backgrounds, as well as discourses on world events in class, allowed for the discussion of different cultural perspectives. Situationally, this became both cross-cultural and intercultural contact. How students' texts or cultures might come together in productive dialogue without glossing over difference. That was said by Kenway and Bullen in 2003. Comparing our cultures in finding similarities allows students to gain insight into the cultural experiences of others in Australia. Wollongong has the fastest growing city in Australia in the mid-20th century due to migrants and employment opportunities made by the steelworks. Between 1947 and 1975, employment at the steelworks grew from 3,665 to 20,175. In the 1980s, a tent embassy, Jobs for Women, set up by local immigrant women who were discriminated against and refused jobs, handed out flyers in 6 or 7 languages, noted Robin Murphy in 2020. My great-grandfather, an Eastern European migrant from Serbia, a part of the many former Yugoslavian migrants of the time who were readily handed a job at the male-dominated steelworks. My grandfather told me of his upbringing in Wollongong, that assimilation into Australian culture, a form of deculturation, was the only way to be accepted because of his ascribed identity. Today, with transculturation in Wollongong at large, the steelworks played an integral role in creating an ethnically and culturally diverse community, where cross-cultural encounters have become intercultural. When I moved to Wollongong, I realised how desperate, particularly the migrant community, were in terms of getting work, and BHP was the major employer of the whole Illawarra, Robin Murphy told SBS News in 2020. The Illawarra Performing Arts Centre by Merigong Theatre Company is a venue for the arts that brings international performances to the people of Wollongong. Hawkins described an assimilatory paradox of theatres, the tension between marginal members of the national community in ethnic terms and at the same time prominent producers of popular culture, said by Hawkins in 2015. Theatres could be seen to have a history of essentialist portrayals and exoticization which perpetuates single-story narratives and ethnic profiling. The IPAC, however, challenges these precedences with their approach to showcasing the performances of international artists. I have engaged in a plethora of intercultural experiences at the IPAC, one of which was a flamenco performance, The Andalusian Guitar, by Paco Lara, and flamenco dancers. As a flamenco guitarist myself, this transculturation of Spanish music and dance in Australian theatre was rich in cultural learning. The specific performance strengthened my awareness and appreciation of Spanish music and dance culture. Performances such as these bring together people to gain cultural knowledge in a beautiful and exciting way. In completing this research task, I have been challenged to apply learnings on transculturation, ascribed and avowed identities, cross-cultural contact, and immigration transitions, engaging in deeper conversations with my grandparents and their refugee migrant experience of assimilation and adaptation into the predominantly Western culture of Wollongong, deepened my understanding of the experiences of migrants and layered my connection to space. This study also revealed the colonial history specific to my suburb, the stolen land of the Dharawal people handed to Blaxland, and how this shaped the place where I live. Reflecting on the intercultural encounters in Wollongong has broadened the lens through which I view multicultural spaces around me. Unpacking them in terms of history and cultural discourses has challenged me to seek other perspectives and layers to intercultural contact zones. Thank you.